Welcome into NFL Daily. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today, we're going to be breaking down 5 NFL teams that I think will be better than you think heading into the 2025 NFL campaign. Before we get into the content today, if you want more content from me for free on X, you can find me at Jack_Sperry. In the next few weeks, I'm going to be dropping my top 40 NFL quarterbacks list leading up to the start of the NFL season this year. So if you guys want to see my list of the top 40 NFL quarterbacks heading into the year and get instant analysis on those guys, you can follow me at Jack_Sperry. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. All right, so we'll start here with the team that I believe will be the breakout team in the NFC conference this year, and that is the Chicago Bears. Now, right now, according to the markets, they are saying that they expect the Chicago Bears to win around 8 or 9 games this year. The over-under is set at 8.5 in Ben Johnson's first year as the head coach of the Bears, and they currently have the lowest odds to win the NFC North division at plus 500 odds. They're not way behind the Lions, Packers, and Vikings, but they are last place in terms of the odds. This is expected to be one of the better divisions in football this year, but as I discussed, guys, my bold prediction is that Chicago will be this conference's breakout team this year, and I think Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson are going to be the next head coach, quarterback duo that's going to dominate the National Football League over the next decade. All right, I think that the upgrades that the Chicago Bears made, going from Matt Eberflus to Ben Johnson at head coach, huge upgrade there. I also love the addition of Dennis Allen as their new defensive coordinator. He could be, for the Bears, maybe what Steve Spagnuolo has been for the Kansas City Chiefs, a guy that's had multiple chances at a head coaching job, probably won't get poached, but is an excellent defensive line. And then another thing that's really been improved is the offensive line here in Chicago. They add Joe Thuney. They still have guys like Braxton Jones in here and Darnell Wright, who they spent a high draft pick on. I really like this offensive line here. They also brought in Drew Dahlman as their new center. I think that this is one of the better offensive lines in football, which is going to help out the run game and help protect Caleb Williams. And in my opinion, guys, I think that Johnson's offense, with the ingenuity and the creativity that he brings to the table and how sound his run game is, with how creative his passing concepts are, and you combine that with Caleb Williams' pure physical talent, which is top 5 easily in the National Football League, in my opinion, that is a scary combo where if Caleb Williams can play and he can truly develop into a true NFL starting quarterback, I think he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league for a very long time, with Ben Johnson calling the plays in the Windy City. So let me know down there in the comments section who will be the breakout team in the NFC this year. If I had to guess right now, I think it's going to be the Chicago Bears, but this will be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know who you think goes from worst to first in the NFC. The second team I want to talk about here is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, it seems like ever since Big Ben got old, have perennially been 9-8, 10-7, on the brink of the playoffs, kind of in that wild card discussion, and then they always get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. And I think a lot of people are expecting kind of something similar. Right now, like the Bears, the over-under for Pittsburgh is set at just 8.5 wins, despite the fact that they did get 10 wins last year with in my opinion, as we're going to discuss here, a far inferior offense with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at quarterback, no run game to speak of whatsoever, and to get double-digit wins and then make the playoffs with the team that they had, and now you have a better roster this year. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are set up to once again get double-digit wins at the very least this year. But you take a look at their offensive stats last year, just plain simply, it wasn't a good offense last year. Out of the categories that I look at, scoring offense, total offense, yards per play efficiency, third down percentage, red zone percentage, EPA per play, and success rate, the Steelers were bottom 10 in 4 out of those 7 categories. So they had a bottom 10 offense last year. There's really no way around that, and they were still able to get 10 wins, which just goes to show you how good this defense is in Pittsburgh under Mike Tomlin. But this year, I think that this offense is actually going to be better than it was last year. And, Aaron Rodgers, I think, is a clear upgrade to what they had in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. I don't really think Aaron Rodgers, gets a fair shake of this based on the way he played in New York last year. I think people think that the collapse in New York was his fault, but they had no run game. They were 31st in rush yards per game in New York last year. It was one of the worst schematic offenses I've ever seen, led by Nathaniel Hackett. The defense, after they fired Robert Saleh, was 29th in scoring defense and 30th in EPA per play, so their defense was terrible. And of course, they were changing coaching staffs in the middle of the year. Like, they fired Robert Saleh. They demoted Nathaniel Hackett. Like, name me a quarterback that could have looked elite or really, really good in that New York Jets situation. There's not many that would have, and with the stable situation Rodgers is going to have in Pittsburgh, I think he's going to look a lot better even at age 41. Another thing that you have to keep in mind here about the Steelers is that this team was considered a legitimate Super Bowl contender before TJ Watt went down with an ankle injury versus the Philadelphia Eagles late in the season that year. They were 10-3, and they were undefeated against playoff teams before that injury happened. They had beaten the Baltimore Ravens. They had beaten the Washington Commanders, who went to the NFC Championship game last year. They also beat the Chargers and the Broncos quite convincingly. You take a look at the defensive numbers after TJ Watt got hurt. Watt continued to play on that injured ankle, but he wasn't nearly as effective. The Steelers didn't win a game for the rest of the season. The points per game for the offense went down dramatically because, they didn't have the same field positioning. But the opponent's points per game for the Steelers, they gave up almost 10 more points per game with TJ Watt injured versus before the injury. The sacks per game went down dramatically, and the turnovers per game went down dramatically. With a healthy TJ Watt, this was the best defense in football last year, and they've only gotten better. They added Darius Slay to replace Dante Jackson. They drafted Derek Harmon, the first-round defensive tackle out of Oregon. So I think that this defense is once again primed to be an elite unit. That is if TJ Watt can stay healthy. And that's kind of my take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, guys. This is a better roster than what it was last year, and this was a 10-win team last season. I think that Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers, I think, are going to mesh well. I think Caleb Johnson, their rookie running back, is going to have a really good rookie season. I think they're going to add another wide receiver to pair with DK Metcalf before the season. And as we discussed, this defense was able to carry them to 10 wins last year, even while completely crumbling at the end of the season. So I think if TJ Watt stays healthy and this offense makes the proper improvements, this is a team that could get, once again, double-digit wins in 2025 and maybe even compete with the Baltimore Ravens at the top of the AFC North. So coming up here on NFL Daily, I got 3 more teams that I think are going to do better than you think heading into the 2025 NFL campaign. But before we get into those 3 teams, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Fanatics, where you guys can go to chatsports.com/NFL Polo to get a really stylish polo for your favorite NFL team at 60% off. All right, they got a bunch of different designs. If you're kind of a classic, kind of just, patch logo type of guy, they certainly have that, but they also have designs. They got a bunch of different colors for you guys to choose from as well. So no matter what your style is, you can rock your team's favorite colors wherever you go this summer. Just go to chatsports.com/NFL Polo to get yours today. It also helps out the channel here, guys. If you go to that link, it's in the comments and description of today's show. You click that link and you make a purchase. Part of the proceeds go to us here at Chat Sports. So if you want to help us out here, go to chatsports.com/NFL Polo and make a purchase. The Tennessee Titans had the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft this year. And with that pick, they took Cam Ward, and I think that Tennessee has set themselves up nicely to have a bounce-back season this year. Now, I don't think they're going to be winning the Super Bowl or anything like that, but right now the over-under win total is set at just 5.5 wins. I think they're going to get more than that, and I think they will maybe even challenge for a playoff berth this year. And the reasons why I'm optimistic about this football team this year is because I think Cam Ward and his NFL readiness is going to allow him to be a pretty decent NFL quarterback right out of the box. The reason why I say that is because, he had an abnormal amount of anticipation throws on his film last year at Miami. I think he will throw some interceptions and he will make some mistakes just like he did with the Hurricanes last year. But I think that he is an NFL caliber quarterback heading into year 1. Also, it's the best offensive line that this team has had in a while. They've got a nice young wide receiver room with some young receivers I believe in. And then the defensive potential with guys like Jeffrey Simmons, T'Vondre Sweat, L'Jarius Sneed is coming back from injury, and we can just take a look here a little bit of what their offensive roster looks like to surround Cam Ward. This offensive line, first-round pick, Peter Skoronski, right? Kevin Zeitler, one of the best guards in football last year, was third in PFF grading among guards last season. J.C. Latham, another first-round pick and a top 10 pick for this team, and I think he's a better fit at right tackle than he was at left tackle. They spent a lot of money on Dan Moore Jr., and Lloyd Cushenberry III is one of the best centers in football when he is healthy. So this is the best offensive line the Tennessee Titans have had in a while, so Cam Ward should have a pretty decent amount of protection, and then Tony Pollard and crew should have enough in terms of the rushing lanes to have a decent run game as well. And then you look at the wide receiver room. Calvin Ridley's one of the better deep threats in the league, one of the fastest, shiftier route runners in the league that can also separate down the field. Tyler Lockett's another guy that's going to get open down the field. I really like Alec Iamaner out of Stanford. He is a big, physical wide receiver that's going to be able to play that true X role. Xavier Restrepo, I think, is going to make this team because of his connection with Cam Ward. And he's just a damn good football player from the slot. I can't believe he didn't get drafted. I know he didn't test well, but this guy can play football, and he's a good slot receiver. They also drafted Chimere Dike in the draft this year. I think he can be a contributor as well. And then Van Jefferson was a full-time starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. So I do think that this is a much improved wide receiver room as well. And then defensively, not only do they have a disruptive pass rusher in Jeffrey Simmons from the interior, but L'Jarius Sneed, their big cornerback addition last year, didn't really play all that much, all right? Just 301 snaps in 2024. He was injured for most of the season. He's going to be back fully healthy this year. And then another thing to kind of keep in mind about the defense here in Tennessee is that they were second in total defense last year. That's something not a lot of people know. They were also 12th in success rate, so there is reason to believe that this kind of Mike McDonald, inspired defense here in Tennessee is going to take a big jump this season. So I think if Brian Callahan, the head coach here in Tennessee, can coach, and he's like a legitimate leader of men, I think that this year's Titans team should be much improved. Now, am I going to guarantee that they win the division or anything like that? No. I think that they could compete for a playoff spot this year, but going from number one pick to competing for a playoff spot in year one of the Cam Ward era, I think would be a success that not a lot of people are seeing happening at this point. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. It's a free and easy way to help out the channel. It boosts our YouTube algorithm here on Chat Sports to get this video in front of more NFL fans like yourself. So if you are feeling generous today and you want to help out our channel, and if you're enjoying today's video, make sure you click that thumbs up icon to let us know. Another team that I don't think is necessarily going to win the Super Bowl, but somebody that I think a lot of people think is going to just be straight up terrible, that I think is actually going to be pretty darn good and compete for a playoff spot this year, is the Carolina Panthers. Right now, the sports books around the world have the over-under on the win total for Carolina at 6.5 wins. I think that they're going to get to probably around 8, 9, or 10 wins this year, and I think Bryce Young is going to have his true breakout season. And he really got close to that true breakout last year in the second half of the year, where he put together some really good football games where he had 26 big-time throws, all right, from Week 9 to Week 18, in pretty much the second half of the 2024 NFL season. And just to put that in perspective, 26 big-time throws is more than what Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff, and Brock Purdy. These 6 quarterbacks are in the top 10 lists of pretty much every single top 10 quarterback list out there. And Bryce Young had more big-time throws than these 6 quarterbacks in half a season than these guys had in the entire 2024 campaign. So Bryce Young's anticipation, his ability to make big-time throws down the field, he looked way more comfortable in the second half of the season last year. And then going into this year, I think Dave Canales and this Carolina Panthers front office have done a good job beefing up the roster when it comes to offensive talent. They've got some nice receivers, Ted Aurora, McMillan. They still got Adam Thielen. What a pretty darn good season last year. Xavier Legette still has a lot of potential. Jalen Coker, was a young receiver last year, rookie receiver that kind of really showed out as well. And then they brought in some guys I really like as well, and Jimmy Horn Jr., and then others. They brought in Kobe Hudson from UCF, another good route runner. So they got some nice weapons here for Bryce Young to work with. It's a decent offensive line. It's the best offensive line that they've had in a little while. They've really heavily invested in that group. And I think that the offense in Carolina is really going to do some good things this year. And I think the defense, although they're lacking some talent, I do like Ejiro Evero as their defensive coordinator, and I think that they'll be fine on that side of the ball. So now our final team here today, I started with my NFC breakout team with the Chicago Bears. Now let's get into my AFC breakout team, the team that I think is going to go from pretty much worst to first this season. And for me, that's going to be the New England Patriots. Now, I don't think they're necessarily going to go worst to first, and like literally, I don't think they'll be the number one seed, but I do think the Patriots will definitely compete for a playoff spot in the AFC this year. And the reason for that is I really do believe in really the core tenets that they have built with this team this year. Okay, you start with the head coach. You fire Gerard Mayo, who is kind of a disaster for this team, if we're being completely honest. But Mike Vrabel is one of the better culture builders in the National Football League. He's somebody that can be tough on players, but the players want to play for him. Gerard Mayo, kind of lost the locker room. You don't have to worry about that with Mike Vrabel. He instills really good standards, and even with about middling talent in Tennessee, that team was able to put up some really good seasons together under Mike Vrabel's leadership, and I think that the Patriots found the right guy to lead the next era of Patriots football. I also really like the hire of Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator, working with Drake May, the young quarterback. He made a Mac Jones look like the future of that franchise's rookie season. Drake May is oodles and oodles more talented than Mac Jones ever was from a physical perspective, and I think McDaniels is at his best when he is just allowed to worry about the offense. He's not a good leader. He's not a good head coach, but he is a very good offensive coordinator. And for a team that is a defensive head coach, having an offensive coordinator that's A, good at his job, and B, nobody's going to touch with a 10-foot pole to be their next head coach, I think it's an awesome hire for the New England Patriots. And then when it comes to the guy McDaniels will be calling plays to and putting the plays in the helmet to, it's Drake May, second-year player out of UNC, who really showed some good things last year. Now, there was some accuracy stuff and there was some decision-making stuff that wasn't too savory for Drake last year, but he had some terrible pass protection that he had to deal with, and despite that, he had some big-time throws when he had an opportunity to play for the Patriots last season. He has a chance to become a legitimate star quarterback this year, and the Patriots also, this offseason made a lot of really big additions and upgrades to their roster, bringing in Stefon Diggs, who when healthy I still think is a really good receiver. Carlton Davis bolsters their secondary. Robert Spillane is one of the better overall interior linebackers in the game. Very underrated signing there. Harold Landry, a sack machine. Milton Williams, a good interior player, Super Bowl champion for the Philadelphia Eagles last year. And then in the draft, getting guys like Will Campbell, who's going to be a mainstay in this offensive line for years. Kyle Williams, who in my opinion is one of the better out-of-the-box route runners in this entire class. And then Travion Henderson, who has a third down back, is an excellent pass protector and blocker, but he's also fantastic in terms of his explosiveness and big play ability. So I think that this team is up and coming. I don't know if they'll win that division this year over Buffalo. In fact, I'll probably say they won't, but if you're looking for the team that I think is going to make the biggest jump from where they were last year to this year, I think that team is the New England Patriots. So let's do it again here, guys. You let me know your NFC breakout team this year. Now let's do the AFC. What team in the AFC do you think is going to make the biggest jump from where they were in 2024? For me, that's the New England Patriots, but what do you guys think? Let me know down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for today's edition of NFL Daily by Chat Sports. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's video. And don't forget to share your opinion on the breakout teams that you think are going to be forming in the league this year, both in the NFC and AFC, down there in the comments section.